How would NBA expansion work? That is a question that we probably will have to figure out the answer to relatively soon, because the NBA's last expansion, I believe, was 2004 for the Charlotte Hornets. And the league, Adam Silver's talked about expanding and things like that. Now, this video will not be about the cities and the teams that would maybe get added, but it's more about the players that get protected for each team. And believe it or not, I believe the easiest way to do this, at least that I know of, is through 2K. So this is not a 2K video, but I'm going to show you because visually it's pretty easy to show you in 2K. So I simulated to the end of this current season, and this is the off season. If it was happening to this off season, which we know it is not. But first, let's figure out what expansion would look like. So, just quick, if you want to look up how does NBA expansion work, there's a video here that you could look at if you would like. But NBA expansion rules center around an expansion draft where existing teams protect up to 8 players. So we will be doing that for each team. We will be protecting 8 players. Now, 2K has their own recommendations of who they could take, and some of them might be okay, but we will fix it and we will see what the best players that don't get protected will be. Um, Now there are there's a lot of scenarios with this because things that matter, of course, the best players are getting protected. Um, Current draft picks like from the past couple of years most likely will be picked. Zachary Risachet will be protected by the Atlanta Hawks, and Alex Sarr will be protected by the Wizards. Things like that. And then players that those teams believe in. Now, obviously, I am not in the front office of any of these teams, but we can kind of see who they sort of rely on, who they like. So we are going to we're gonna do this. Right, so let's get this ready. So again, we're at the end of this season, and we're going to talk about it. We're just going to go through it team by team. So again, 2K does it in their own sort of way. Again, this is the season after, just kind of just in case. Now, I believe there was probably going to be certain players that are free agents, but obviously, I believe they can protect those. I'm not sure, but in a world of expansion, it would probably be 2 teams added. One, I mean, I think how it's worked in the past is one out east, one out west. But if Adam Silver really believes that the West is too good for the East, then both expansion teams maybe go to the West, and that's when they push either New Orleans or Memphis to be an East team. Because if you look geographically, especially Memphis could probably be an Eastern Conference team, based on how the NBA, conferences slash divisions work. But again, that's not part of this video, but it's just kind of the players. So Tyrese Maxey, I think, so we're going to do 8. Hopefully I remember that and I only pick 8. So Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and Jared McCain, I think, are the most obvious. Um, Embiid, I think they still protect. Now, this is a little different because these are not, I just added 2 random expansion teams. These are not what I'm looking for. So actually, give me a second. So actually, we're going to do it from basically if it was the start of the season. So these are the current rosters of when the season started. Um, because as you saw, there was only 9 players on Philadelphia, and there's not much of a conversation for that. So I think let's if we were to hypothetically deselect everybody, right? And now I'm going to reselect some of those guys, but I think that the instant ones that are no brainers for Philly is Maxey, is VJ, McCain. That's 3. I think Grimes is 4. You still have to protect Embiid, even though his contract is very not friendly. Right? So yeah, not very friendly, but your mind is Embiid maybe in the playoffs can get back to 2023 Joel Embiid. So you protect Embiid. That's 5 right there. I think you also protect Kelly Oubre. That's 6. I think Paul George is getting left off this because you look at the contract production. I mean, he hasn't been god awful, I guess, in in his little bit he's played this season, but they made a mistake signing him to this. I think they realized that pretty quick because they tried to trade him last season, which was the first season he was on the team. So I think Paul George gets left off this. I think you protect Randall Wofford, who's only 24, and I think you protect Justin Edwards. And that should be 8 players. Now, if you also do not know, and this is going to come into, this is going to matter for certain teams later. If team, whatever the first expansion team is, took Paul George with their first pick, that means Andre Drummond, Dominic Barlow, Dan Bona, Eric Gore, everybody is now safe on the Sixers. Only one player can be taken from each team. So if you think about 30 teams, 15 roster spots, that one player from every team hypothetically would be picked, unless, maybe they do 14 picks, maybe they do 13, but almost one player. You never have more than one player per team. So if they take Paul George, you get Drummond, you get Dominic Barlow, you get Dan Bona, you get all these guys back. So I think this is what you do first. Again, obviously the obvious ones between McCain and BJ, because those are their draft picks who are still young and could be stars one day they believe in. You've got your valuable role players like Kelly Oubre, Quentin Grimes, guys you just don't give up for nothing. And then you got the stars and stuff. Now, I'm not going to try and go that in depth for every single team, but just for just to show you guys how this would work. So the Bucks is the team. I think 2K got it pretty damn right. Now Bucks are hard because they don't have a ton of value over here. They kind of have to find value during the season and in games. But I think the top 5 I think are correct. I think there's a world where you look at Kuzma. Now he will be on a 1-year deal after this. But I think you say no to Kuzma. I think you can keep Cole Anthony. I think you keep AJ Green because you signed him to a pretty good deal for his value. And I think you keep Gary Trent instead of Kuzma. Gary Trent is on a 1-year deal, but he has a team option, which the Bucks should accept. Very valuable player. And Kyle Kuzma, again, if somebody doesn't want Kuzma and they take Taurean Prince, you get to keep Kuzma anyway. So I think that's the 8 we go with from Milwaukee. Now, these teams like the Bulls are going to be hard. So I think Giddey, I think Kobe White, they don't think you should keep Vucevic. He is on the last year of his deal this current season. They think you should keep Isaac Okoro, Dosunmu, Jones, Buzelis you keep, of course. Noah Senge you keep. I don't think they would keep Patrick Williams, so I'm going to take that off. They might keep Isaac Okoro, but they don't really care about Zach Collins. Patrick Williams' deal is not good at all, especially since he has a player option and not a team option for 2028. And I think you still protect Vucevic. Now, again, this is going to not necessarily matter as much as you think because, again, there's not going to be expansion today. But this is kind of an example. We'll go through all 30 teams, and we will obviously talk about it like we've done for these first few teams. I think if you don't want to keep Vooch, you could very well keep Jalen Smith, who is on 2 years, $9 million. But Vucevic is on the last year of his deal anyways. You don't want him, let him walk. Even though I'm sure they probably won't. But Cavs, you keep the top 6, I think, perfect. You're giving up Max Strus, who's on 2 years for about $16 million. You keep Sam Merrill, who, similar to AJ Green, they resigned. That's not a horrible deal for him. And they think that you keep Tyrese Proctor. If you think that, I'm not going to lie, I don't know a ton about Tyrese Proctor yet. I know he went to Duke. He was a second-round pick. He's looked okay, and sometimes for the Cavs, he is young. That is a situation where they think that they have some value in Tyrese Proctor, so they're going to keep him. So I think the Cavs got it pretty damn right. Again, I think if you don't want to keep Tyrese Proctor, maybe you keep a Naquan Tomlin, who's been decent in some times for the Cavs this year. Lonzo's on the last year with a team option. Max Strus, maybe you want to keep some just a good, reliable role player, but I think that's pretty good. The Celtics, You got to keep the top four. You got to keep Kada. I think you got to keep Walsh now, who's jumped up to a 79. Now, we're not taking overalls into account because this isn't a 2K video. We're just using 2K for the help. Josh Minott, I think, is good. And Hugo Gonzalez is the last guy. Now, there is a world where maybe they say, okay, Josh Minott, no, and we keep Hauser. I don't know if that's the case. And this is a very good example because they are going to let Anthony Simons, who's on the last year of his deal, hasn't gotten maybe as much of an opportunity as maybe he would like and as some fans would like. But someone's going to draft Anthony Simons, most likely before Sam Hauser. So once Anthony Simons gets drafted, you get to keep Sam Hauser. Now, so it doesn't really matter. I guess the same can be said if you say, hey, and then Josh Minott's there. But this is one of the instances where I think this is pretty spot on too, because Hugo Gonzalez, their first round pick from this last year, Josh Minott and Walsh have looked promising. Kate is obviously the starting center, and then these four you shouldn't need a explanation for. Now the Clippers. The Clippers. It's hard because this team is a retirement home right now. So again, the top three you keep, right? You're not giving those guys up just to give them up. Derek Jones Jr., I think you keep as well. I don't think you keep Bradley Beal. One, he is kind of going to come off of, is it shoulder surgery? Because he's already out for this season currently. And they also have the young guys here like Cam Christie, Kobe Sanders, and Kobe Brown. Which I think, like guys like Kobe Sanders and Kobe Brown, I think you keep. Cam, I don't know if you take Cam Christie, maybe protect Conan Niederhauser, who's your first round pick from this past season. But I think I would do Conan Niederhauser and I would do Chris Dunn because Chris Dunn also has a team option. Bradley Beal has a player option. Chris Dunn might be a little more valuable to this team right now. So I think that's how I would do it. I would switch out Beal for Dunn and I would switch out Cam Christie for Conan Niederhauser. The Grizzlies, I think this is another one where they got pretty spot on. The top four, I think you keep, no questions asked. Cam Spencer's at the point where you got to keep him. Both the Spencers probably are, especially when we get to the Warriors. Ty Jerome, I'm not sure about. We haven't really seen this too much. I mean, this team always has a bunch of injuries. You keep Jalen Wells. And they're saying keep G.G. Jackson. Now, they are not really utilizing G.G. Jackson necessarily for like how they did in his rookie season. So I could see if there's like, okay, no G.G., you keep Aldama because Aldama, I mean, it's also a little bit of a declining deal. It's a team option. And I think the value that Aldama brings, I think he's only 24. It's not like he's 29. G.G. Jackson is 20, but I think that's how I would go for this. So guys like Brandon Clark, Jock Landale, Scottie Pippen, Vince Williams, KCP would all go out the door. I think this is the scenario where G.G. Jackson should get drafted over every single player on this Grizzlies team if you were to get it. And same would go for Aldama. So I think you got to determine, are you better off or okay with losing Aldama or G.G. Jackson? And I think that's one that they would have to decide that I can't really decide for them. The Hawks, there's a world where you let Porzingis go because, well, he's sick again, and he's just a negative asset at this point. I believe the Celtics had to trade a first-round pick to get rid of him, and I believe when they got him from the Wizards had to give up a first-round pick for the Celtics to take him. So if that trend keeps going, but he is on the last year of his deal as well. You want to stay competitive. I'm cool with keeping that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The top 7 players, I think, 100%. Asa Newell, I think, is who you protect too. You might want to keep a V. Craigie, who's, had some moments. He's on a very friendly deal, but I think Asa Newell is going to matter more to you than Vic Craigie will, or Vite, however you say it. So you lose guys like Mohamed Gay, you lose guys like Caleb Houston, Keaton Wallace. I just think that's a bullet that you take when you lose in a guy like Vic Craigie, but all these guys have more meaning to that team. Miami. So I think, yeah, the top five you keep without a doubt. Um, there could be a world maybe you say let go of Wiggins. I think you keep Davion Mitchell, and they want to keep Jokic on. That's perfect. Maybe you want to keep Jovic, who nasty fall a few nights ago. Hopefully he's okay. I haven't heard anything about that. Maybe something came out. Maybe it hasn't. I think there's a world where maybe you say, okay, Wiggins, he's got a player option. The Heat probably aren't going to be able to strike out on that John Morant type player that they think they could get, that they always think they can get. So maybe you say no Wiggins and you keep Jovic because, well, you just extended him. He's 22 years old and he's a first round pick from 2022. So I think that's what the Heat will do in that case. And then these top five are all either young first round picks that are showing promise. Khalil Ware just had a monster game against the Celtics last night. And then these top three are pretty obvious. Now, this is ridiculous. I know 2K is not a perfect game or a good game. Again, this is just how I'm showing you. But they don't think they should keep Brandon Miller, the second overall pick from 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Come on. So LaMelo and Knipple, yes. I think there's a world where they maybe part ways with Bridges, but Bridges at this point is like a pretty good Hornet in history because they're not a very rich franchise. But I think if you're saying Liam McNeely or Brandon Miller, or if you're saying Tajon Salon, who Tajon Salon might be one of the worst draft picks in semi-recent history. But I think they keep him. I think you got to say Liam McNeely. No, you have to keep Brandon Miller. And there's honestly a world where you have to keep Colin Sexton. Mason Plumlee, that isn't even. Mason Plumlee's like the third most important center on this team. So I think that's fine. Trey Mann, they would maybe want to keep Josh Green and Grant Williams. And Pat Connaughton, they probably don't care about. I think this is how I would do the Hornets. The Utah Jazz, I think is going to be relatively simple. You keep the top three. You let Nurkic go. You don't really need to associate yourself with Nurkic. You don't care about him that much. You keep your fifth overall pick. You keep Filipowski. Now there's a word. Do you keep Bryce Sensabaugh? Do you keep Isaiah Collier? They want to keep Walter Clayton instead of Collier. I can't say they're wrong. They want to keep Taylor Hendricks, which they're definitely not run for a 9th overall pick through 2 years ago. And they want to keep Cody Williams. Now, Cody Williams has not had a good NBA career so far. This is only his second season, but he honestly doesn't get a lot of burn. I think he had like his best game of the season like a game or two ago for the Jazz. I could see a world where they say no Cody Williams, let's keep Collier, or let's keep Sensabaugh. I don't think they would do Sensabaugh, but I think they would maybe keep Collier. But again, Cody Williams is also a 10th overall pick from the draft right before this Cooper Flag one. So I would probably say that's correct. Oh my God, the Kings, dude, the Kings. We're gonna start fresh with the Kings. Let's start fresh. I don't know. They want to keep Precious Achiuwa and everything. All right. Let's say the lock. So they said they do not want to trade Keegan Murray. And there was someone else that they didn't want to trade. I don't know, but no, Keegan Murray they keep. Raynaud they keep. Keon Ellis they keep because they want a first round pick for him in real life. They're not gonna hopefully let Keon Ellis go if they want to get a first round pick for him. So that's 3. You keep Nate Clifford, who's your 24th pick in this past draft. I think you keep Devin Carter, who's your 13th pick in the draft before, and that's 5 right there. So now you got to say, between all the vets, who do you want to keep? And I guess Malik Monk. I think you keep Sabonis. I think you keep. Dude, this might be the hardest one because this team is trash, bro. This team is trash. And you probably keep. I mean, Levine's contract is at the point; it's so big. You just let it go. I think you keep DeMar because his contract's not too bad, and I think you keep Westbrook. So guys like Malik Monk, or maybe you don't keep Westbrook and you keep Monk, because again, you would assume maybe Zach Levine gets picked, and then you get a lot of these guys back. This is one of those teams that might be a big factor for. So we'll say Malik Monk, and we'll let these guys walk for them. The Knicks, I think it's literally just their top guys. They think they should keep Tyler Kolek. I don't. I mean, maybe you see Mitchell Robinson, you see him as a health hazard or an injury risk, and you don't really care if he gets taken. But Mitchell Robinson means a lot to this team, and I don't think you just do that for Tyler Kolek, especially when you're keeping Deuce McBride as well. I think you keep the top dogs. The Lakers, top four, yes. They okay. All right, all right. Well, this is a team I think we got to start fresh with. So the top four, we know those four will stay. I think you keep Connect, even though they are trying to trade him. I think you keep LaRavia. I think you keep Jackson Hayes. And I don't think you worry about Bron. Nobody's drafting Bronny James, okay? Now I wonder if oh yeah, so if the expansion team selects Marcus Smart, they get that current contract of Smart. So you got to think about that part too. And honestly, do you keep Smart? You're keeping Connect, LaRavia. I think you keep Hachimura. I think you keep Hachimura and you take your chances with Marcus Smart being in there. So I think that's how the Lakers do that. The Magic, this is another team where it is going, where I think the fact that somebody gets selected, everyone else comes back will matter. So the top four you keep, Anthony Black you keep. Let's just do that for now. So, and then who else do they have? Oh, yeah, okay, Jace Richardson. So there's five guys here. I think you keep Tristan Da Silva, you keep Jace Richardson. Noah Penda, maybe, but I think Jet Howard is kind of where you stay because, again, he is a first. We got to remember, he is their first round pick from not even 3 whole years ago. And so you're giving up every center to the draft, but you got to remember, if a team takes Wendell Carter, okay, you still have Goga Bitadze and Mo Wagner. If someone takes Mo Wagner, then guess what? You get to keep Wendell Carter. I think you also have to be strategic about this in a way that, okay, if you're torn between 2 or 3 centers or 2 or 3 people from the same position, unless you are certain you want one of them, just throw them all in there because guess what? Only one of them can be taken from you. Only one of them can be taken from you. So I think this is how you do it if you're the Magic. The Mavericks, I mean, so you keep the top 3, you keep Lively, you keep Gafford, you keep do you keep Clay? I don't think you keep Clay. I don't think you keep Clay. I don't think you worry about anybody down here. Maybe Max Christie. Maybe that's you replace Clay for Max Christie. But are you okay with giving up PJ Washington? PJ Washington 1000% is getting picked by one of those teams. So it's either, I think this is a situation, whoever the Mavericks give up, whether it's Clay, Najee Marshall, PJ, that person's going to get picked. So who are you okay with losing out on? I haven't watched a ton of Mavericks, so I don't know if they would rather keep Najee or PJ Washington. I would assume you would rather PJ over Najee Marshall, so I'm going to do that. If I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments, but don't criticize me too hard, please, because I'm trying my best here. The Nets. Okay, so let's just start fresh. This team has so many draft picks from this past draft that you got to talk about it. So you keep Michael Porter Jr., you keep Claxton. We'll come back. You keep Jaeger Demon, you keep Danny Wolf. I think you keep Drake Powell. I think they have to keep all of their like draft picks, don't they? So that's five right there. You keep Ben Seraph, and maybe you're okay with Nolan Traore. Maybe you gotta go, but that's six. I think you keep Clowney, and I think you keep Cam Thomas, unless they're okay with losing Cam Thomas for nothing, which is something they got to think about. If you're okay with losing Cam Thomas, then that's where you go and you keep like Day'Ron Sharpe or Nolan Traore. Nuggets, yeah, I think you just keep the top of the top. Maybe you want to keep and rely on a little bit of Day'Ron Holmes. Maybe you want to keep Jalen Pickett. You probably want to keep Julian Strawther. Yikes. But actually, no, I don't think you can keep Julian Strawther if you're protecting like Payne Watson and Christian Braun, obviously. But maybe they regret the Christian Braun contract and they say, nah, get rid of him. Maybe they regret the Cam John. I doubt it. But if they regret the Christian Braun contract, then you keep Julian Strawther or Christian Braun. But then again, Christian Braun means a lot to that team. So, is this the top 8? Is that what we're doing over here? We're doing the top 8 over everyone else. Jarace Walker, we're saying bye to. We're keeping Jay Huff. I think that's a mistake. Even if Jarace Walker's been up and down, or you don't believe in him, he's your 8th overall pick from 2 drafts ago. I think you keep Jarace Walker over Jay Huff, who's a guy that's signed for $2 million. Now that is a good contract, and he has been playing decent while this team, doesn't have center play like that. But I think you keep Jarace Walker. Now it's a little different for me because I don't have the emotional attachment like a lot of these GMs will, or I guess fans, if you want to say this too. But it's hard for me. I think DeJounte Murray they might let go because they're not letting Herb Jones go for nothing. There's no way they're not letting Herb Jones go for nothing. I think you're okay with giving up DeJounte Murray because then again, you're going to get Jose Alvarado back probably. You're probably going to get Carlo Makovich back and Bryce McGowens, Jordan Hawkins, unless someone values like going after a Jordan Hawkins or a Bryce McGowens over, a max contract player like DeJounte Murray. This team, you keep the top 3. You keep Ivy. You keep Stewart. You keep Ron Holland. Ooh, they might have got. Now, there's a conversation for Marcus Sasser, who is your first-round pick from the Wemby draft, over like a Karis LeVert. I think you keep Dennis Jenkins, too, based on how he's been. I think, you know what? I think that's not that bad. Tobias Harris will be a free agent anyway. If you want him, go try and get him back in free agency later on. So yeah, I think that's good. I think these are the guys that you care about, especially these top 5 that are protected right now. Up to Stewart, you care about Dennis Jenkins. Is that you got to be invested in Dennis Jenkins now based on his glow up this season. I think there's a conversation for maybe taking LeVert out and keeping Harris, or taking LeVert out and keeping Marcus Sasser, but I don't think that's too bad. Toronto. We've got – now, this is hard. Do you say, damn, we overpaid Pirtle. Let's get him out. Hey, quickly, that contract is horrid. Let's get him out. They're giving up Jamal Shed. I think if I was the Toronto Raptors, I'm saying, hey, we might have made a mistake with the Emmanuel Quickley thing. Let's get rid of Quickley and keep Shed. Now, they lose guard. Quickley is obviously better than Jamal Shed is. But that's Emmanuel Quickley, $32.5 million until he's basically 30. Until he's almost 30 years. That's 4 seasons of pay. And when you have Scotty Barnes, who's max contract, Brandon Ingram, max extension, RJ Barrett, who maybe you try and trade, that's a lot of money. Pirtle, that's a lot of money. Like, I think you say quickly, we got to say bye to you. But I think you also keep Grady, Murray Boyles, and Shed over Mamu. Even though Mamu Matters. Jacoby Walter. Ooh, that's a hard team, but I think that's how I would do it. Houston Rockets, yep, totally. I don't think you keep Clint Capella over Steven Adams, but we'll come back because Steven Adams is what, 14 a year? Okay, he's 7 a year. Tyler Smith. I think you keep. I think you keep both these guys and you get rid of the Tyler Smith and Capella. So just their top 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think you keep the top 8 on this team. The Spurs. Now this should be This should be easy peasy. So yes. Okay, Keldon. Sohan, you got to keep, even if he doesn't play a lot for you. Carter Bryant, you keep. Perfect. Right? I don't see anything wrong with that, unless you're saying, hey, we don't want Keldon, we want Harrison Barnes, or we want to keep Luke Cornett, who we did just extend. Now that might be a conversation because Luke Cornett probably gets picked. This is the thing. I think if you give up Keldon and you keep Cornett, Keldon's going to get picked, and vice versa. I think if you do this, then Cornett could get picked. I think with all the wing play, I think you keep Cornett. I'm not going to lie. You have the Dylan Harpers, the Snells, Castles. You have the Sohans and Carter Bryants. You need another big, so we'll keep it Cornett instead of Keldon, which I think that could be up for debate. I'm not going to lie. Booker, Brooks, Mark Williams, Jalen Green, Gillespie, Brian Dunn, Maliwatch, yep, and Rasheer Fleming. I think that's perfect. I think that is perfect. I don't really think there's too much of a conversation. Grayson Allen's a valuable player, and he will probably get picked, but you're not to where you give up. Come on, Maliwatch. Or, I mean, maybe you said Rasheer Fleming, who I guess fell in his draft to be the first pick in the second round. But I think you keep Rasheer Fleming over Grayson Allen, who is already 30 and will be 32 or 33 by the end of his contract, potentially. The Thunder. Oh, so this team might be harder than it seems. AJ Mitchell, Case and Wallace. Yes. Caruso over Lou Dort, though. Topic and Sorber. Yeah. Oh man, this is gonna hurt the OKC fans letting this go. But I think you got to go Caruso. You got to pick Dort over Caruso. I think you do. And I think Hartenstein, sadly, is just not. He's just expendable because he's going to cost you a lot of money. You can get off that contract, I guess, a year earlier, even though it is a team option. But I think that some of these guys, you've got Sorber to replace that Hartenstein value at some point, hopefully. Topic, God forbid, Topic get better soon, man. So I saw he was hooping, though. He was warming up a couple days ago, so that's good for him. But I think you keep those two youngins, too, because, again, those are your first-round picks in back-to-back drafts. The Thunder, that's not the Thunder, the Timberwolves. Yeah, you say bye to Mike Conley. Ugh. Oh no, you got to keep Terrence Shannon. Oh no, who's going to be? Let's talk about it. Rudy Gobert matters obviously to pretty much any team he's been on, but the money he makes versus it's a double-edged sword because sure, offensively he doesn't give you much. He has his occasional 20-20 game or 15-15 game. But defensively, he's obviously one of the best in this generation. There's no debating that. But the money, he has a player option until 2027. Oops, sorry, did not mean to hit that. He has a player option until 2027. But so basically, you got to, or you pick between Dillingham, Darren J, and then Terrence Shannon. Because I think if I was one of the GMs for these expanded teams, and they, for some reason, said, you've got to pick somebody from the Timberwolves. Maybe I think about Bones. Probably not. I go right to Terrence Shannon. I go right to him. I think I go right to any of these players, no matter what, which is why I think you keep him over Rudy. Because again, you extended Naz Reid. At some point, the Timberwolves have to realize that they have to move away from the Rudy Gobert times. Sure, their paint presence defensively will get worse, but I think at some point you have to realize Rudy Gobert's not going to be here forever. He is already 33. He is on the roster till 35, 36. I think you might be okay with biting that bullet a little earlier. Portland, yeah. Yup. Some people might want Yang Hansen to be protected, but I don't think you protect him over any of these guys. Jeremy Grant could have a similar conversation to the Rudy Gobert thing. Maybe, maybe not. I think Jeremy Grant might be a little different because I think he can give you a little bit more. Obviously, not the shot blocker that Rudy is, but I think that's fine with that. I don't think that a GM will go right for Yang Hansen. I think he might look at a Robert Williams. He might look at a Matisse Thybulle and be like, okay. Or maybe nobody gets drafted. Who knows? But I think that's not bad. Thank you. Poor Draymond. So they're done. They said nope. Pat Spencer, but Pat Spencer's 29. Oh my god, I did not know he was 29. It's ridiculous how disrespectful they do Tracy. It's crazy how they do Kuminga, but they still keep Kuminga because he's still an asset. He's still a valuable player. Sometimes to them, Tracy Jackson should be getting kept, bro, over Clint Post. But I know I'm not gonna do this based on my biases. I'm gonna do this based on let's look at this professional, like a real. I'm not gonna lie, they're not losing Draymond for Al Horford. I think this is how you go. I think this is how you go. And then to end it off, should be relatively easy because you don't care about CJ. You don't care about Chris Middleton, who is going to probably be a buyout option this season. CJ maybe could be a buyout option as well. It's basically, do you want to keep AJ Johnson? Probably not. Or Cam Whitmore or Will Riley? Probably not. I think that's spot on. So let's confirm and let's see. Let's go to the draft and the best. So the best players we did not keep are obviously all right here. If you notice a lot about them, they are older guys in some cases with huge contracts. And if they're not big contracts, they're semi-long contracts as well. So Paul George, kind of a long contract, is also big. Same with Rudy. LaVine is a big contract, but he's got a player option. Hartenstein is just not more valuable, I think, than some of those young guys in OKC. We've talked to Russell Westbrook is a minimum guy for sure. He could very well easily be kept, but he is 36, so you've got to think about that. But look at all the big contracts, the huge, huge contracts. You don't get a good contract necessarily until you're 12 to 15 players down. Other than Westbrook, I guess. And so I think that the expansion time will just be a time where teams will use it to free out a lot of money, especially because we are in the second apron era. The last time we had an NBA expansion, we were not in the second apron era. There were not as many restrictions, if you will. Sure, the salary cap was less, but so were contracts. So I think teams most likely will use it how I used it for a lot of these top guys. Okay, we've got guys we might need to pay in the future, like in OKC's case. Hartenstein can't stay forever. He just can't. Same with Caruso. it's a hard conversation. I think I did my best. Let me know what you guys think. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this with a friend. And let me know what you guys think. And let me know what teams do you think will be added. Like what cities? What cities are getting a team? Do you think Seattle? Do you think Las Vegas? Do you think another New York team? Are you thinking, let me know where you're thinking. St. Louis or another Carolina, maybe. Let me know. I don't know. I will say I don't think Seattle comes back because you got to remember Seattle was already here and they're part of OKC's history. If Seattle's history was wiped when they changed to OKC, I think there's a chance they come back. I don't think the Supersonics come back. Maybe a Seattle team comes back, but the Supersonics I don't think can come back. But let me know what teams you guys think will be added. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think.